Welcome to JessieAtHome.com. This is the video to assist you with making the raised stripes hat. If you have found this video on YouTube or just outside of JessieAtHome.com and you would like to see the entire pattern, then in YouTube, in the description section of this video, you can find the link that will take you to the pattern. Alright, so as you can see, I've done the first round here, where I've chained 3 to start and then double crocheted 9 more, so that I have a total of 10 stitches. I'm now going to chain 2 to count as my first half double crochet, and I'm actually going to place my first front post double crochet over that chain 3 that started round 1. Okay, so your first half post double crochet goes over around that chain 3 that started round 1. Now, I'm going to do a half double crochet in the next loop, and then a full front post double crochet, half double crochet, front post double crochet, all the way around. So you will end up with 10 half double crochets, counting that chain 2 that started, and 10 front post double crochets. 10 halves and 10 front posts. And that's going to go all the way around. These tutorials that go along with my patterns are not meant to teach you the stitches. They're meant to help you know where and when to place the stitches, to just assist with the pattern itself, but not to teach the stitches. There is a tips and tricks section of my website where you can find videos on various stitches, and I do intend on increasing the videos there as time goes on. Alright, let me just, oopsie. Always I talk and then I lose my place. Alright, just a reminder, we're doing a half double crochet, and then a front post, and then a half, and then a front post, okay? All the way around. You started with the chain 2, which counted as a half, and then you did a front post. So if you started with a half, essentially, then you are ending with a front post. Ten of each. Then you're going to slip stitch into the top of that first half double crochet to form a ring. Now, round 2 and all the increase rounds are going to have you half double crocheting into every single stitch and front posts into every front post. So here we have this half double crochet, and we're going to do one more. Okay, in the first round we had 1 half double, a front post, 1 half double, a front post. Second round we'll have 2 half double, a front post. I'm sorry, in the second round we had 1 half double, front post. This round we'll have 2 half double, front post. So that was 1. Here's 2. You need to make sure you get 2 half doubles before you get to the front post, and then your front post. Now you need to fit in 2 half doubles in before the next front post. 1, 2. Okay, you're going to do that all the way around. 2 half double crochets and then a front post. Okay. I'm going to go all the way around, 2 half double crochets and then a front post. Okay. 2 half double crochets, 1, 2. And then a front post. All the way around. It's a little chilly here today, so my hands aren't quite working as well as they usually do. Alright. If you want to get the correct size on your hat, it is important that you make a gauge swatch first. The gauge swatch information is in this pattern. I always recommend that you make your gauge swatch a few stitches wider and a few rows taller than what the actual gauge is. That way you can measure within your swatch to your 4 inches, okay, and then count how many stitches are in 4 inches and how many rows are in 4 inches in order to see what your gauge is. If you have too many stitches, okay, if you're supposed to have, here, let me finish this round and then I'll explain it to you while we're doing the next round. We're going to do one more round of increases here just to show you. Okay, in this round of increases we just did, there were 2 half doubles in between every single front post. So in this next round there will be 3 half doubles in between every single front post. So our first chain 2 counts as our first half double. We need 3, which means we need to fit in 2 more. here's our front post. We need to fit in 1, 2 more stitches. 3 half doubles in between every single front post. You are working a half double into every single stitch and then a front post into every front post. Since we just did a half double here, that means our next half double will happen here. We're also working the front post. Okay, all the way around. 1, 2, 3 half doubles and then a front post. Okay, 1, 2, 3 half doubles and then a front post. Okay, so when you make your gauge swatch, you make it a few stitches wider and a few rows taller than what the gauge actually is. So if the gauge is 10 stitches and 8 rows, you might want to make 12 or 14 stitches and 10 or 12 rows. And then you take and measure your 4 inches within that. And if you're supposed to have 10, look at that. If you're supposed to have 10 stitches in 4 inches and you have less stitches, that means your stitches are way too big. Okay, your stitches are too big. And so if you have less stitches than you're supposed to, your stitches are too big, you need to use a smaller hook. If you have more stitches than you're supposed to have, that means your stitches are too small and you need a larger hook. You just need to find your correct gauge. And then whatever you're making should turn out the correct size. Okay, which is why, I give yarn and hook requirements, but not all yarns are the same. Not all worsted weight yarns are the same. Not all people have the same tension, so that's why it's important to check your gauge. All right, here we are finishing up this round of increases, and I'm going to show you one of the straight rows next. So you want to follow your pattern to know how many increase rounds to make. We're going to pretend like we're there. Whatever number of half double crochets your last increase round is, that is how many you'll have in every single straight round to follow. So in this case, we had 3 half double crochets in between every single front post. And that's what we want to continue to have all the way down the straight edges. Okay, so you start off with the chain 2 to count as a half double crochet. We had 3, we want to keep 3. We want the last half double crochet to be worked into this stitch that is directly before our front post. Okay, you do not want it over here. You want it right here, directly before your front post. So if we need 3, that's 1. That means these are 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3, front post. Now again, we're going to do 3 half double crochets between the 2 front posts, and the last one should be right here. So that's 1, 2, 3. That means we're not working a half double crochet in here. Okay? It's very important that you do the correct number of half double crochets and that the last one is in this stitch that goes right before the half double crochet. So basically you're not working in here. That's what your front post counted as. All the way around. It almost feels like, even though you're technically not skipping a stitch because you're actually working a front post double crochet into that stitch, it can almost feel like you are skipping a stitch, and it can almost look like you are, but you're not. This is the correct way to do it. Now, this will give you your raised stripe may spiral, may veer a little bit in one direction, but it won't go much. I just realized I did a double back here. It won't go much, okay? If you really do want a kind of slanted look to that raised stripe, which just gives it another added kind of design element, then all you have to do is switch all of your stitches to your right one. So instead of starting here, going 1, 2, 3, you would go 1, 2, 3, not work a half double here. 1, 2, 3, not work a half double here, do your front post. That would make your stripes kind of veer that way around the hat a little bit. If that's the design element you want, have at it. If you want it straight, as I have written in the pattern, then you want to make sure that you are using the loops coming out of the stitches, not going into them. Okay? Making your last half double crochet on the straight rounds right up against the front posts. Okay? That is, like I said, that's the way I wrote it, to have those lines be straight. There's nothing wrong with making them slanted if that is your intent. I kind of think it would be neat, and I will probably make one or two that way just because they're fun, but I don't want to confuse you. So, alright, that is the end of the straight rounds. They're all going to be done the same way. All those side rounds are going to be done just the same as that one, so I don't see the point of making another one for you. So now I'm going to show you the brim rounds. Okay, the brim rounds are worked with a front post double crochet, then a back post, then a front post, then a back post, all the way around. Our very first front post is actually going to be replaced with this chain 2. This chain 2 is in place of our first front post double crochet, and it comes out of the previous chain 2. So we're skipping that, but we've essentially worked out of that. And since we're counting it in place of a front post, our next stitch would be a back post. So there's the chain 2, which is in place of a front post. We are now making a back post double crochet. And then we're going to front post, back post, all the way around. Next is the front. And then the back, and then the front, and then the back, and then the front, all the way around. Front post double crochet, back post double crochet. And it depends on what size you're doing and all of that. It's not necessarily going to put a front post double crochet on top of your previous front post double crochets when you do your first brim round. Your first brim round may seem to knock things off kilter a bit, and that is okay. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Just follow the pattern. Do the chain 2, do a back post, then front post, back post, front post, back post, all the way around. Okay? A little note on yarns while I'm finishing up this round. As I said, not all worsted weight yarns are the same weight. This is a Red Heart Super Saver that I'm using in this sample, in this example here. Some of the samples you'll see that I made on my page, on my blog post with this pattern, are Vanna's Choice, Lion Brand Vanna's Choice, or Lion Brand Heartland, which I'm madly in love with that yarn right now. Then there are other samples made by my testers in various other yarns. The Red Heart Super Saver tends to be at the heavier end of a worsted weight. So I might use a 5.5 hook to get the correct gauge with that. But the Lion Brand Heartland tends to be more of a middle worsted weight, so I actually end up having to use a 6mm crochet hook to get the correct gauge with that one. So you might need to, adjust your hook to get the correct gauge. And I have even found that some yarns, their chunky size is almost the same as the Red Heart Super Saver. For example, Baracco Vintage Chunky and Red Heart Super Saver are nearly interchangeable in size. You just need a tiny adjustment to hook size in order to get the same gauge. I could probably use the Vintage Chunky with a 5mm hook and get the correct gauge. My hat would be a little denser, but the gauge would be correct, and it would be nice and warm because it would be a little denser. Okay? So, here we go. We're almost done. We're doing front post double crochet, back post double crochet, all the way around, and then the remaining rounds of the brim, however many the pattern says, depending on what size you're making, are going to be worked. You'll see just a moment. Okay, we end with a back post, and then we slip stitch to the top of the beginning chain 2. We chain 2 again, and now we back post in every single back post around, and we front post in every single front post around. The remaining brim rounds are going to be worked that way. You back post in the back posts, and you front post double crochet in the front post double crochets all the way around. Start with the chain 2 and do your back posts and your front posts, and slip stitch to the top. And then after you've finished all the front post, back post, essentially rib stitch brim, bottom of your hat band essentially, there's one more round worked of single crochet around the top to just kind of pull the whole thing together. What I love about this little brim, or this little hat band at the bottom, or brim at the bottom, is it can stay down to make a nice long and warm hat. It can be flipped up to make a shorter hat, or you can even just flip up the front of it and leave the sides and the back down to cover your ears, keep you warm, but still have the front up so you can see your face a little bit more if that's what you want. Alright, so there you have it. I hope this was all helpful to you. Have a nice day.